and we are the co-founders of Dipper.
Dipper is a technology platform that guides professionals of color to a better workplace, one review at a time.
Dipper is your safe space. It is the time for you to share your voice with a community that you are a part of. Visit us and join today at ourdipper.com.
Welcome to our viewers. Oh my gosh, and welcome to our incredible guest speakers today. Welcome to the virtual launch of ourdipper.com. You requested that we continue these events, so we have added to our lineup. So join us every Tuesday until the end of June to participate in our Shut Up and Listen themed events. Each event will feature top DEI thought leaders to discuss engaging topics impacting workplace culture. This is a perfect opportunity to share more about Dipper, a tech platform for all people of color, Black, Brown, Asian, and Indigenous professionals of all levels, including C-suite, to rate and review their workplaces. Members have profiles and can access the inside scoop on which companies to join and stay away from. Members can also engage with other members on Dipper's newsfeed. So today, are you ready, everyone? Our topic is the pandemic amplified structural inequality. Nope, that's wrong. That is wrong. Today, we are talking about glamorous work versus office work. And we're going to get into that. We'll start by introducing our guests, Ruchika, Tulshyan, and Elise James DeCruise. All right, so Ruchika is an author, an entrepreneur, speaker, and educator. She founded and is CEO of Candor, which is an innovative organization that develops strategies to create an equitable and inclusive workplaces that reflect the diversity of the world. She's a journalist by training with bylines in publications like Harvard Business Review, the New York Times, and Seattle Times. She's currently writing a book about the women of color in the workplace, published by MIT Press in the spring of 2022. So welcome, and we are so excited to have you on board. Jacinta, on to you.
Yes, and I'm really excited to also introduce our next guest. I'm always excited when I have us in the ad space. So, you know, I'm an ad girl too. So I would love to introduce all of you to Elise James DeCruise. Is an award-winning diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner with over 20 years of global experience. She has experience in marketing, strategy, design, and delivery of learning solutions. She is currently the Chief Equity Officer at the Ad Council, which is a nonprofit organization that brings together the most creative minds in advertising, media, and tech to address the most worthy causes. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Thank you again for joining us. And I want to kick off with a very powerful question here. What pressure have you faced in your career, and this is for both of you, to volunteer for office homework activities? And for those that are aware of what office homework activities, you're going to learn all about it today. Okay, Elise and Ruchika are going to definitely be able to break it down for us. I'd love to start off with you, Ruchika.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Neda and Jacinta. I will say that I wish Dipper existed when I was starting out in my career, because I'm sure you hear this all the time, because I had no idea. And then you learn the hard way, and then you're like, what am I doing? So thank you for the work you do. It is such a service to the world. So I deeply care about office housework. And it's funny, Neda, when you're talking about inequities, I was like, yeah, of course it's inequities, right? But structural inequities is office housework essentially refers to, this concept where you do things because you need to keep the lights running. It's super important to the organization to have things running, but you're never going to get recognized for it, right? So it could be ordering the lunch in a meeting. It could be the ones doing the scheduling, even though that's not part of your job. It could be taking the notes for the meeting. And it could be mentoring the interns, things like that, that don't formally ever get recognized in performance reviews. And research shows that women and people of color are disproportionately assigned office housework, right? And that unfortunately does end up impacting their career advancement. So when I think back in the beginning of my career, I think until even today, even sometimes when I walk in to advise an organization, it takes a moment for folks to understand that, I'm not the one who's really going to be doing the meeting notes, or I'm not going to be the one who is, I think there's this expectation being a woman, and then the intersection of being a woman of color, of being an Asian woman in the workplace, that I'm going to be really, really likable. I'm going to volunteer to do this. And there have been times where I'll certainly when I was junior in my career, people would immediately turn to me. It was like, okay, who's ordering lunch? And it was like, Ruchika's going to order lunch. And it's like,
Ruchika's like, no, you're ordering lunch.
But then how do you say no?
Yeah.
That's the other part. Like then you don't, and I think to Elise, I'd love to hear your perspective, because seriously, the hardest part is when you're early in your career, you're junior, disproportionately, especially if you're a Black woman, especially if you're an Asian woman in certain industries, like you're the only one.
Yeah.
How do you say no?
Yeah.
I completely agree. And to build off what you were describing, I think it's really important when you're starting out your career to be really intentional about how you want to show up. And what you're willing to do and not do, like ordering lunch every single time or taking notes every single time, and really flexing that muscle so that you can stand, in your truth and the experiences that you want to create for yourselves and for the organization, so that it doesn't come across as so that you don't come across as like a disengaged employee or not helpful or not willing to be a part of the team and the culture. So, I think it's really important to find that balance when you are just starting out in your career. I made sure that I had a portfolio, if you will, of mentors and trusted advisors and, folks within my network and even outside of my network through introduction that I can lean on and ask questions and make sure that what I was experiencing was validated. Because when you're young, you don't really know. And there are instances now in my career where I would second guess, did that just happen? So making sure that you have that trusted circle of folks that can validate your experiences as truth as you navigate throughout your journey.
Yeah. And both of you are spot on, because it is such a hard thing to do when you're really the only one in the room. And then everyone's looking at you to take on that small project that you're not going to be seen on, and you're not going to be recognized. You're not going to get the credit. And then what if you say no? Now no one likes you, right? And it makes it even more difficult for you to navigate. And I'm sure we've all experienced that. But I think people are still wanting to know, like, what do you do in those situations? What if you are that person that will stand up and say, no, I'm not doing it? But I think Bob would be great for that. Bob, do you want to take the notes today?
Well, you talked, both of you spoke about like establishing the boundaries, right? Because sometimes there are things where you will do it, even though you're like, this is not my job requirement. Like, we're just going to do it, but I think maybe it takes like verbalizing that this is like a sacrifice, and I am very enthusiastic to take one for the team, and that kind of thing. But it's figuring out that balance. Like, I think we've all been at places in our career. I remember my first internship at an ad agency. Like, I just got coffee. Like, that's all I did. Like, all I did was get coffee until I turned like getting coffee into a spreadsheet. And then they were like, do you want to help with this campaign? So, but I think it's like figuring out how to set the boundaries for that. And so if there's I know this is not the next question, Netta, but I'm curious on like, if you all have any advice on how to set those boundaries and then communicate them too.
Yeah, well, I think, appreciate the question. I think one of the areas that should be foundational to setting boundaries and communication is the level of transparency. an amplification of the areas that you are focusing on that you might not want to do, or the skills that, or the tasks, if you will, that you don't want to do, and make it a part of the ongoing conversation. Like, not just once a year during review time, or twice a year, like during your one-on-ones and your touch bases with your manager and or your teams, making sure that you're cataloging all of these areas. And on the back end, identifying the transferable skills that carry over into other areas of the business, and really being intentional about that. And they'll get it, because,
yeah, repetitive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just making sure that it's a constant drumbeat and not just a one and done when, you're feeling a little stuck that day, or might just not be feeling it that day. And then you kind of go there, but instead making sure it's a part of the conversation on an ongoing basis, I think is really important. And the last piece is creating those moments of trust with the individuals that are asking you to do these things. So you can create that trust, create that safe space. And it's like, no, when I push back on X, Y, and Z, this is why, so you have that moment of, trust and communication, and they'll get it then too. And then they might not ask, in a group setting. They might ask you first, And I just, as women, and especially as people of color and Black and brown people, really standing, like I mentioned, like standing in your truths, like validate yourself, and really flexing that muscle that, like, you matter, your words matter, your experiences matter, so that you can build that muscle and build that confidence over time.
I love that. That's such great feedback. We talk a lot about office housework, but I'd love to drill down on the glamorous work. And who's getting the glamorous work? Can we get some glamorous work? Right? Ruchika, I'd love to hear from you. What is the glamorous work? How does that look? How can we all be a part of that? And how can
glamorous work? Yeah, sorry. Disproportionately, to answer your question, goes to white people and white men. I mean, there's research behind this as well. So I'm not just making it up. I think everyone here can recognize what glamorous work looks like in all of our industries. And again, from the more academic standpoint, it's essentially work that gets you promoted, work that gets you recognized, that makes you very visible in the organization. You get credit for it. It's essentially the opposite of ordering the lunch or taking the meeting notes or mentoring the interns when in your organization there isn't, a path forward to do that. And essentially, we know that it largely goes to white people and to men, and therefore it is really important for our advocates and our accomplices and our allies, whatever word you use, as Minda Hart says, success partners. It's really important for them to stand up. Like, if you are someone with power, with privilege, with status, with you are the ones constantly being, recruited for the best opportunities, the high visibility projects, the one that, like, the organization is going to get recognized for. It's really important to redistribute that work fairly, right? And I obviously the ideal would be if you just said, I'm not the right person, Ruchika should be the one doing it. But even and that's maybe me being just too, it's a big aspiration, but really at least being in a position where we can say, I would like Ruchika to partner with me on this.
Yeah.
I think that's at the core of it. That's what would change the game.
Yeah, I'd love to see more people do that. I think that would be such a powerful way, like you said, to change that dynamic.
The only other thing I would add is, like, the flip side. I see both truths. I also think it's necessary and a requirement for Black and brown people and underrepresented groups, women in particular, to push through their discomfort in experiencing new things, push through their discomfort in having conversations that might look a little bit different, might not be in the same setting that you're comfortable in, because that's how you're going to build the trust, and that's how you're going to bring people to you that have access to experiences and people and opportunities that are considered glamorous, for that matter. Yeah, and like don't sell yourself short. Like I just feel, even,
I love that.
Like when I was early in my career, even navigating my career now, like just being confident in what
Knowing
you've
your worth.
accomplished, knowing your worth.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't have to check every single box. I mean, most people that are not Black and brown people, white people, maybe 50%, 70%, and they're going in there like, all right, we got this. We're gonna land this job, and like we have to wait until we're every single box is checked, and like we do ourselves a disservice, and we miss out on amazing experiences that we can add, to our career and personally.
Well,
it is okay. Oh, sorry, Netta, because I got excited because it's true. Like, we, especially in the interview process, but this even could happen in a group meeting when someone's asking who wants to pick up this project. Yeah. It is okay, sis, if you've never done this before.
Exactly.
Like, it's okay. It's okay. It is okay. You don't have that MBA in economics or whatever. Like, it is okay. You've never done this. Like, just do it. It's fine. You can get other people who have done it to support you and to help you, but like, just do it. And I think it's funny. I have been in positions like that, and both times I have two, they're my homegirls, but they're Chinese. They're both of them. But when I say homegirl, a lot of people think it's another Black woman, but they're my homegirls. And in separate conversations, they both had this convo with me. They were like, so what? You've never done that before. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can do it, and I think that, so it's also like us pushing each other and then pushing ourselves too, right?
Yes. You took words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. The accountability partner. Yeah. Right? I haven't done this, but you can do it, girl.
Yes. Yeah.
I failed today. Okay. That's great, but she'll be better tomorrow. Right? So I think, that's definitely a critical piece.
I 100% agree. I will add that we really need both sides of the story, right? And I think one of the challenges has been this pervasive narrative, which I think has been, all the work I've done, all the research I've done has focused on how white women largely experience the workplace. And there's this, like, oh, women don't lean in. What they mean is white women don't lean in. I have seen a lot of women of color lean in and step up and and not volunteer, but like say that I want to lead this project. And I've seen them be shot down too. And so there's a real both and here. I absolutely, and I encourage all my students, you need to put yourself out there. You need to go do the thing. You need to apply for the jobs that you feel like you're unqualified for. And I also really want to see our society step up, our workplace leaders, again, people with privilege, really say, I believe that this person is going to be able to do this job or take on this project. I trust in them, because some of the challenges is that trust piece as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's powerful. Thank you both for dropping gems in such a short amount of time.
I love it.
Time just flew by. It was truly a pleasure having both of you on. Are there any tips that you'd like to leave our viewers with if they're experiencing a situation at work where they're only seeing that they're gaining that office housework, and maybe they're in a senior level position? I think the misconception is that it happens typically to folks that are in entry level, right? And that's not entirely true. So any tips there before we head out?
I would add to speak up and speak out. Like, don't suffer in silence. I mean, there are other people that are going through very similar situations, but kind of push through that discomfort and have the conversations with other people so that we can elevate the broader conversations and address systematic issues, policy change, and broader training opportunities for leaders within the organization to help support and elevate Black and brown people, underrepresented groups. as they navigate uncharted waters for some instances.
Yeah. Elise, I loved your point about data, and I just want to make a, and want to sort of reiterate that you mentioned it earlier as how do you say no? And yeah, I think you need to kind of keep a log. And I have done that where I've said, okay, I took notes 3 times so that when I go to my manager, I can say, I took notes the last 3 times. You have the data. There's that. And then one last thing that I have also found effective is to actually put it in numbers, how long it takes. Like, yes, in that moment, meeting notes, whatever, won't take that much of time. But there could be other projects that are really, really time intensive and take time away from the work that you were hired to do and that you're going to get recognized for. So again, being able to go to your manager and have that discussion like, hey, when you asked me to mentor, like 5 people, junior employees coming in, this is the time that it's taking away from the work I'm doing, this amount of time. And if you still want me to go ahead, is there a way we can build it into my performance review or discussions that we're going to be having in some other way? And I think that's very important to do.
Yeah, I love that idea of tying it back into the performance review.
Absolutely.
Well, again, thank you both for dropping such incredible gems today. To all professionals of color, connect with us on ourdipper.com right now by signing up and completing your profile on ourdipper.com so that we can unpack all the gems that our guests dropped today. Also, be sure to rate and review all companies. I mean, every single company that you have ever worked for. And head to ourdipper.com, sign up, be the guide to a better workplace, log in to share your voice, and find your space. Thank you for joining, and we hope to see you on ourdipper.com today. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.